All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started. Excited to welcome you to Pando Days 2022, the premiere week. This is our third and final day. My name is Matthew Manos. I'm going to be the host today. And again, very excited to have been here the whole week, just looking at all of these amazing projects and can't wait to see what today has in store as well. We're going to be hearing from Cal State University Long Beach with two different project submissions, as well as Cal State Northridge, and then a collaborative project between Harvey Mudd College, Pomona College, and Cal Poly Pomona, which is really cool, as well as the California Institute of the Arts, Cal Arts. The challenge category that they're taking on is alleviating climate crisis and protecting water resources to ensure a safe, healthy, and hospitable environment for all. Very worthy challenge there. Most of you joining this event, you know that we have a not so secret goal with Pando Days, which is to connect people like you, educators and students, to a really big plan that really matters. And that's the Los Angeles County Sustainability Plan, which we see as the boldest regional sustainability plan in the entire country. Pando Days offers a framework to help implement this plan with innovative solutions to some of the most pressing problems facing the Southland. These are challenges related to water, to ocean, to power, solar, and more. And the good news is that we're succeeding. More than half of the projects launched through the Pando Days program since started back in 2019 have actually been supported by outside funders or advanced by community partners, which is amazing to see. To date, there's actually been 20 colleges and universities from all across the Southland that have participated. And this has produced nearly 40 separate change-making initiatives. Now, the best news, though, is that you're getting to see a summation of Pando Days 2022 with premier presentations that we've done, again, throughout this week, coming from the participating colleges and universities that have actually dedicated full courses, studios, or labs over this fall semester that's just wrapping up. Then on April 16th, we hope you all will join us for the finale. This is going to be the grand finale of the Pando Days 2022 season, but also the launch of season 2023. And this event is going to be held on the campus of Caltech, which we're really grateful for. There we'll be celebrating all of these projects with something else, a specially produced film and book. And there's also going to be an award of small seed grants as well. So definitely hope to see you there. Our goal is to gather all of you students and team leads together with the people that you need to meet, people who are in a position to help these projects become a reality and create that positive change that we're all striving for. So April 16th, put it on your calendars. Don't miss it. Hope to see you there. So all that said, let's get started with the third and final day of Pando Days project premieres. You'll see that these events are being recorded. The recordings, along with all of the project materials, are going to be posted on a rolling basis on each team's dedicated webpage on the Pando website. And that link you'll find in the chat right now as well. So it's a good one to bookmark and see the updates and everything that everybody's been working on. All of the Pando Days project content will then be assessed by a panel of judges. Our premiere presentation format gives each school 10 minutes to present summaries of their projects, followed by another 10 minutes of Q&A from our panel of experts who I'll introduce right after the first project presents. And then on to the next. And we've got 5 project presentations total for today. First up, we've got Cal State Long Beach, which is the first of its project submissions, the Colorado Lagoon. Using augmented reality, the project seeks to raise awareness to protect and preserve one of Long Beach's most significant natural wonders. And Professor Heather Barker is the team lead. So Heather, welcome, and we're going to pass it over to you for your presentation. Can't wait to hear more.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Cal State Long Beach has been very much committed to engaging in our local habitat and our environment, which has the largest urban ocean city in the region, has a significant impacts from natural sciences, expertise, community engagement, and we're really thrilled to be part of this ongoing impact that Pando is making. As you mentioned, we have two teams today. I will hand it over to our student team to make their presentation. Lily.
Hi. Can you guys see my story map page?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so we worked on the Colorado Lagoon and we created an augmented reality art walk at the lagoon. My name is Lily Rodriguez. I have a background in design and computer science. My other teammates are Mark and Eva. Mark has a background in political science and educational technology, and then Eva has a background in applied mathematics. So I'll go over a quick overview of the lagoon and kind of like its current state. So the lagoon is part of the Greater Los Cerritos wetlands historically. And then just to kind of show you an image of what it used to look like. So here in this map, you'll see the light blue overlay. That's the 24 acres of the Los Cerritos Wetlands Complex that used to exist. And then now with the darker blue overlay, that's what remains. And then within that red circle, that's the Colorado Lagoon. So the Colorado Lagoon consists today of 13 acres. So it is very small, you know, going from 2,400 total to just 13 acres of the lagoon. And then this is what the lagoon looks like today. So we really focus on the lagoon because it was interesting to us that one, it's a historical site. It's a sacred Native American land. And two, you know, it's an urban landscape really. So there's like a playground on site. A lot of people, families go there. But, you know, the water quality has always been, you know, in recent years has been, you know, less than ideal. So the restoration efforts really, the current ones is they will be opening a channel to help improve the water quality of the lagoon. This is what the restoration plans look like for the future. And yeah, we focus on this because we really think wetlands are an important ecosystem. Not only are they habitat to wildlife, but because the lagoon is so unique in its makeup, you know, I mentioned it's an urban landscape. It is also, you know, a great habitat for, you know, us people. And then going over to research and development, I'll hand it over to Mark.
Hi. So yeah, we thought about this project in terms of like can we improve awareness of wetlands for the local community and also honor the sacred land of Pomona. So which is partly on the campus of Cal State Long Beach. So we did the brainstorming and we looked at all of the community assets and thought about like there's other wetlands in Long Beach. There's a lot of artistic community spaces like cafes. There's art galleries, things like that. And so we looked at that and we were like, how can we leverage that? And then we looked at what is the current awareness of the lagoon. And so there's a lot of people who go there, but they don't really know anything beyond like it's a nice place to play or take a walk or something like that. But they do think that wetlands are important. So we know that there's interest in learning more about this. And then we did some interviews and visited the lagoon. And then we also wanted to look at, so what are the people who care about wetlands currently doing? And for that, we had to go to the other wetland called the Los Cerritos wetlands across the river. They have events for bird walks. And you can see this image is of a bird walk. And we noticed that it's kind of hard to appreciate nature when you're in a really urban environment. You can see there's oil refineries in the background. It's not really that much of like a natural looking setting, but you can find nature if you're looking for it and you know what to look for. So we had a guide who was very helpful. We had binoculars. And so through that, we were kind of able to appreciate the birds, but we don't think that like a normal person would be able to do that. And we also did this habitat restoration event. And we kind of saw that a lot of like high schoolers and college students even and families who were interested in sort of connecting with each other and with nature and getting the volunteer hours and all of these things. But at the same time, there were a lot of educational signs posted around that people weren't really taking advantage of. You can see that there's a lot of text on that, and there's photographs, and it could be interesting, but people didn't really make the time. So we were thinking about more ways to make this type of information more interesting and accessible. And then we also wanted to look at the side of like Indigenous land. What does it mean to them? So we interviewed a bunch of local community leaders in the Indigenous community, and got kind of learned about their philosophy of like, respecting the land, kind of having harmony with it, and really making use of it in a lot of ways. A lot of their traditional practices involve plants specifically in the wetlands. So habitat restoration is actually helpful for their culture as well. So yeah, we kind of looked at that and then thought, how can we bring art into it? And it turns out that there has previously been art walks at the lagoon to raise awareness. So this was really interesting. We were able to talk to the people who hosted them and learn about their process for developing an art walk, and then also the struggles and like all the time and logistics that were involved. And we realized that a digital event would be much easier to pull off, especially on a short time scale. So then as far as the product goes, we looked at different ways to have an art walk that was digital, such as QR codes on yard sign. But then we looked at the platform we're currently showing you this presentation on, which is called Story Maps, and realized this is the perfect app because it allows you to have a guided walk with different locations where you can attach links to those locations. And so we realized we can just attach our AR filters directly to those locations through Story Maps. And then we'll show you this quick video of how this works. You share some. So yeah, you can see that she has the story map open in one window. She finds the location that is in the picture and then opens up the link to get to the augmented reality art. And just holds the phone up and it's right there. Sometimes you can actually also hear a narration, like a little audio story. We were able to have some of the people, artists, share what the art means to them, and particularly particular birds or species, which was really cool. And so you see here people like posing with the art, kind of just having a lot of fun with it. And we also had a little station at the end for art making. Okay, so this is data about our interactions that we were able to have. You can see that we did get a lot of engagement with the Instagram filters, and of people from outside of Long Beach. So interest is pretty wide, and ultimately what we're looking for is they feel a greater appreciation for these things, and luckily it looks like they did, especially with audio narration that accompanies the art. It helps them to really learn in an engaging way, we found. So as far as alignment, we were looking at the county goals for the healthy communities, infrastructure supporting human health, thriving ecosystems, habitats, and biodiversity, and then accessible parks and recreational spaces. So we were kind of inspired by those. And then as far as the United Nations goals, we were also inspired by clean water and sanitation, as well as life on land. So those were kind of driving us. And then with Pando's deals, we kind of thought it was really cool that they would mention the experience of being and belonging in a specific lived environment. So native wildlife, indigenous cultures can't really get any more local than that. So that was really cool. Future directions, we are hoping to have a permanent QR code at the lagoon on one of their signs so that people can access this experience at any time. Also, any place you can access this experience, virtually as well. If you just have the pictures of what locations would look like, which you do have in our story map, which is at the bottom of this webpage. And then we also have an Instagram page now that we use to market the event, which we can continue to use for educational purposes.
Yeah, and that was the gist of our project. Then we'll open up for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you both. This was wonderful. Love the use of augmented reality, and that demonstration was really compelling too. I'd love to see something like this in action as well, and excited to see what our panelists think too. So I'm going to briefly introduce them, and then we'll have them ask a few questions that will more fully illuminate the project as a whole. So these panelists that we're turning to, they represent a full range of expertise in areas related to sustainability and community. So we're really lucky to have them. Today, we've got LaRonda Bowen, who is formerly of the California Air Resources Board. We have Sister Mary Beth Larkin of the Sisters of Social Service. Little known fact that the sisters have on their campus in Encino the largest private solar panel installation in the state of California. So that's pretty cool. And then we have Chris Liban, who is Chief Sustainability Officer of Metro. Thank you all so much for being here. Again, we're going to have 10 minutes for some Q&A. So would love to throw it to any of you that would like to start with a question. Anybody feeling inspired, or should I pick on somebody? Oh, Chris is inspired. He's got the mute off.
Well, I saw LaRonda raise her hand first, so I'll defer to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me and for having me, and for the wonderful projects that you all proposed. I had a chance to read in depth some of the responses, and just the idea of what you're doing is good. In the arena of bringing people together, I appreciated the idea, that using the camera, and I noticed that in the one that I was focused on. I would encourage each of you, though, as you're going forward and you're looking for ways to get the information out, not to leave out the leaders of the environmental agencies that regulate water, land, air, everything here in California. So if you're not familiar with the umbrella agency, it's just if you want to reach out to someone in the water department, for example, all you have to just do is Cal EPA. It stands for California Environmental Protection Agency, right? And if you go to their website, you can see all the different departments that they have. So as I was listening to you, I'm thinking, when I was at the Air Resources Board, I retired from there recently, but when I was there, I was the ombudsman there, and I was responsible for implementing the federal requirements for small business, Section 504 of the Clean Air Act. So as you're starting out as entrepreneurs, if you're going to build a whole business around your idea, great. If not, just the little snippet that we saw today is the kind of thing that you might be willing to offer to share at one of the agencies when they're having their board meeting. So for example, at the Air Resources Board, we always, and the other water agency does it too, we always put our agenda out so people could know and be online, and the same happens with the other agencies. And so as you look forward, you can ask, can we have a display in the lobby that we can present our project or our information? We can bring more people together around this issue. Like if you have an event coming up and they have a board meeting, see if you can be there to promote your event at their board meeting. And so there's room outside of it's basically in the lobby. And it's not that difficult to get permission to share what you're doing that ties into what they're doing. So whether it's the water board or the air resources board or Cal Recycle, these things all work together. And what you guys are doing is so exciting compared to, it gets kind of from the staff and from the people who are constantly there. It can get very routine. And what you're offering just in that little clip is a way to engage and to lift people up. You will also find more people drawn then to your project. So it's a marketing opportunity for you that should be fairly easy to set up and very low cost. But thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
That's
thank
all.
you for that.
I'll
That's
go back
really,
on
that's really
mute.
helpful. Thank you.
Hope so. I hope you take advantage.
Yeah, wonderful advice. Thank you, Loranda. Chris, how about we throw it to you and then we'll go to Mary Beth.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, Eugene and to the rest of the Pando Days team here for inviting us. Great opportunity to not only know about the different projects happening around the universities in the region, but to engage in active conversation with all of you. I really love this project. Combining not only environmental stewardship, but recognizing the fact that this is land of our native constituents here in this region. And along those lines, I'm actually curious on a two-part element here. The first one is how do you foresee access to this particular project? And this is related to as if your project gets off the ground, becomes successful, you draw in more people, and people might be to the location. How do you foresee access and vis-a-vis greenhouse gas emissions? And then the next one is as more people get drawn to it, what does maintenance look like so that the benefits of this project actually are maintained over time, and the people who enjoy it now would enjoy the same amount of benefits in the future.
Yeah, so those are great questions. I think just you were kind of getting cut off a little bit. So from what I'll try to answer from what I understood. But as far for like future maintenance and so because we thought about like maintenance and how like a lot of it, there's not always like a whole lot of funding, but Loranda brought up like some good points and like good, organizations that we could reach out to for maybe more support in that. But we would really try to keep it as minimal as possible for maintenance. So I know we briefly mentioned, kind of putting up like informational boards, because right now there's some, but they're like so old and cracked, right? They could be redone. So it's like visual informational boards about the land itself, and then how they can access, our event online. That's kind of like more of a self-guided tour if so it could just be accessible for anyone, anytime. And then for, I think your first question was about like, how could we, sorry, we could repeat your first question.
Yeah, I'll just repeat it. Access is a big deal for many of these locations, and as they grow, become popular, people tend to drive at these locations, or instead of doing active transportation, especially if it's not connected yet to transportation network. So I'm just trying to reconcile, how do you foresee, in somewhat of a landlocked body of water like this to, more
Okay.
project
Yeah. Well, I know, like, for example, the event that we did, I mean, it was much smaller. We only had about 20, 30 people come out, but all of them were local to Long Beach. And then also from the research that we found and did, and also from talking to Dr. Whitcraft, which is a professor of biological sciences here at Long Beach, who does a lot of research on wetlands and the Colorado Lagoon. She also just told us that a lot of visitors are local. So, I mean, theoretically, that if it's more like neighboring, visitors, theoretically that would have like a low carbon footprint. But in terms of maybe because we would want to spread even more awareness of it.
And so, yeah, like I will add that we want to make it a fully virtual experience. Like to view the art, you really just need a picture of the scene and hold up your phone against it. So you could put the scene on your computer and then hold up your phone and you'd see the art just as if you were actually at the lagoon. So that's something we're working on. Because the goal really is to make people feel more of a connection to the place. But to be there is to have the best experience. But then if you can't be there, you should also still be able to feel something.
Yeah, I guess something to think about, in the future. I'm not, if it's no particular path on that question right now. Something to think about is to develop the project a little bit more, because it makes a difference if you're there.
Yeah, it does. Totally. We agree. Yeah, thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Mary Beth, let's turn it to you for a quick question or comment, and then we'll hear their next project. Yeah.
Great. I am super excited about this project. I moved from Massachusetts, my family and I, when I was about 8.5 years old, and I swam in the Colorado Lagoon pretty much every day and during the summer. And until it became too secluded and polluted, frankly. And then we used to go to Alamedas Bay, which is, within walking distance practically. But this, the opening up of the channel that will flow seawater into the lagoon as it was, is huge. That's going to take care of a lot of the questions of maintenance, just in keeping fresh water moving. And I know that area really, really well. And I'm just so thrilled that it is in the works. And I've heard about it a long time ago. My sister lives in Long Beach, and I get down there often enough. But I love the inclusion of the Indigenous and Native American populations, and really understanding and learning about that history, the art walks and all of that. And it is proximate. It doesn't look like it from some of those photographs, like the one with the salt dirt, where all the oil fields are. That's not far from lots and lots of residents and lots of people that walk. And, it's a stone's throw from Cal State, Long Beach. And it's a very highly populated area where, people who like to be in the outdoors are. So I think it's great. Kudos to all of you on the Cal State Long Beach team, because I just love the idea that you could be so close to it as students and faculty and people at the university that you could walk right over and work on it. And great plan.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you call those synchronicities for me, because I didn't expect to see as the first one up today, that's a place where I grew up, and I learned to swim, and I learned to love the water and the environment and the wetlands and all that stuff. So it's a great area to continue to improve. And the fact that you're going to have it available virtually, a lot of people are going to say, let's go there. Because they wouldn't, if they don't live there, they don't know the opportunities that there are in that part of the Long Beach area. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just wonder also that this is not the only event day that have this kind of walk. You can actually just go right now and you can still experience. So if you have time, you can go, and we just send you the link. Then you can go over the whole artwork by yourself.
I will do that.
That's great. That's great. Well, wonderful. Yeah, great job. Thank you so much. I'm excited now to hear from our second project from Cal State Long Beach, which this one is called Visions of the Long Beach Breakwater. So yeah, I understand this project also uses the augmented reality experience, but this time it's to develop and promote strategies supporting a sustainable ocean ecosystem around the Long Beach breakwater. So yes, students from Long Beach, let's throw it back to you to hear about another project.
Thank you very much. As you can see from the first project, the Long Beach is an area with a lot of human construction, human intervention at a scale that can be seen from space. So there is a lot of work to do, and the Long Beach Breakwater team will talk about the work that they're doing.
Sounds great. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Great. So yes, our project is on the Long Beach Breakwater and on augmented reality experience. I'm Carissa, and on my team, I also have Precious and Brian. And before we get started into anything, we wanted to show you a documentary that we created to give you more of a history and a context on the Long Beach Breakwater. Please let me know if the sound is not playing. Long Beach, a city known for great weather, lots of diversity, and a coastline with great beaches. But some locals might also argue that their beautiful beach city is filled with trash, and more trash.
They're nice, but they can definitely be a bit dirty at times with like plastic and trash and stuff, so.
Craig Hendricks with the Historical Society of Long Beach said that the city's nickname was Queen of the Beaches, and it was known as the Waikiki of Long Beach. But what most people might not know is that there is a large contributing factor to ocean pollution, and that is the Long Beach Breakwater. This 2-mile rock wall of the coast of Long Beach has been one of the most important and controversial pieces of infrastructure in Southern California for the past 70 years. Constructed in the 1940s in the midst of World War II, the Long Beach Breakwater was built by the U.S. Navy as part of a deepwater port project. It served as a barrier and deterrent to enemy submarines. But the Navy port closed in 1997, and with no shipyard or shelter to defend, the necessity of the breakwater has been in question ever since. Groups like the Surfrider Foundation argue that the breakwater is contributing to the city's ongoing pollution and trash problem. Trash comes directly from the LA River, which funnels tons of debris downstream. And because the breakwater cuts off at natural ocean pollution, much of that trash ends up lingering close by the shore. It's estimated that maintenance crews will rake up over 2,500 tons of trash from the LA River in 2022 alone. That's like filling up 63 semi-trucks with trash. So what can be done about it? Well, the breakwater isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but joining advocacy groups like Surfriders, Think Earth, and the Sierra Club can give people the opportunity to educate themselves and others about keeping the beaches of Long Beach beautiful and clean. Great, so we hope that that gave you a little bit more context and background on what the Long Beach Breakwater is. As I said in the video, the LA River is going to rake up 2,500 tons of trash in 2022 alone. That trash is going to travel a 50-mile river from all over Los Angeles County. And what's going to happen is all this trash that's going down here, it's going to end up in Long Beach. And that's because the breakwater, there's a breakwater that's cutting off that natural ocean pollution. And that means a lot of that trash is going to end up on the beaches of Long Beach. So this might be the first time that you have heard of the Long Beach Breakwater, and we would argue that that is the same case for a lot of people. We interviewed 12 people on Rosie's Dog Beach here in Long Beach, and some of the things that we came to find was that one, most are from Long Beach or they're from Southern California. Two, their thoughts on Long Beach include that there's a lot of ocean pollution, there's trash, lots of plastic, it's neglected. Three, they think a way of solving this ocean pollution and the problem is by awareness and education. And last, they don't know anything about, most don't know about the Long Beach Breakwater. So really diving into, solving ocean pollution, the problem, and by what they believe is by education, we wanted to really dive deep into what that means and the future possibilities. And what we came to find was that, really the future possibilities of education really is in augmented reality, virtual reality. So we wanted to make sure that we were taking those into account. As well, we wanted to make sure that we were taking into account our LA County goals from Pando and our UN Sustainable Development Goals, because we believe that this is not only important here in Los Angeles County, but all over the world as well. So this comes to our challenge. We know that people believe that ocean pollution in Long Beach is bad. We know that people argue a way to solve the problems by education. And we know that the future of education is by AR and VR experiences. And we know that people do not know about the Long Beach breakwater. So this comes to our challenge is how are we going to help the community of Long Beach find ways to educate themselves and others about Long Beach that's going to affect them and future generations. So this really brings us to our solution statement, which is really being able to create an immersive experience by educating people on the history, the consequences, and the call to action for beach communities to empower to catalyze. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Precious now.
So after we decided on our solution statement, we decided to focus in on our target users. So of course, it would directly impact the Long Beach residents, residents that interact with the ocean interface, but also residents that have different education levels on the Long Beach breakwater, what it does and how it affects. That also served as a basis for our user persona. So ultimately, there's someone who engages with their environment, but doesn't know how to quite impact the environment in a positive way. Within our AR experience, we hope to take the user from uninformed or worried or concerned about the environment to someone that is informed, ultimately leading them to a course of action. Going into our lo-fi designs, so we ideated between a scavenger hunt and a carousel, and we ultimately decided to go with a carousel idea. This carousel hosted a total of 7 posters, taking them through the history and all the information that we gathered as well. And it ended in a course of action. So of course, we wanted the experience to directly impact Long Beach. So we wanted it to be something that they can take away knowledge, but also something that they could hopefully implement. Then we also had our filter designs that our users can interact with. And of course, we had to test out the filter before translating it into the real world. And now I will call on my colleague, Brian.
In the development of our process as well, we created a digital twin of Rosie's Dog Beach, which I will show a short clip here. So this is supposed to represent how our project would look like as a permanent AR installation on Rosie's Dog Beach. This was created in twin motion. As you can see, there's some people surrounded around the sign interacting with the poster, and there would be a QR code where they can scan it and basically interact with the AR filter. And then we also used Metaspark AR to create the AR filter. We imported the flyers into the program in order to create a carousel Instagram filter. And here's a short demo.
Hi, welcome to this AR immersive experience. We hope you'll enjoy learning more about the Long Beach breakwater and ways you can get involved to help fight ocean pollution.
Flyers.
We will guide you along each stop, and you can follow the arrow of the beaches.
There's also a selfie thing.
Hi.
So there's 2 components to it. And also in additional preparation, we created a Adobe Express digital flyer detailing the details of our analog day, just like when we're holding it and the time and what we'll be doing. And we distributed this before we held our analog day. So on our analog day, this is the route we followed. We started at Rosie's Dog Beach. We walked up and down Rosie's Dog Beach in order to have people scan the filter for the QR code. And we walked down Granada Avenue, and we also interacted with people on 2nd Street as well. And during our analog day, we printed out a poster with the QR code on it so people can scan it whenever we're packed. You can see here there's a picture of someone on Rosie's Dog Beach scanning the QR code in order to access the filter. The main goal of our analog day was to get direct feedback from people after scanning the QR code and interacting with the filter, because we knew that we could have just posted a poster on the beach and have people scan the QR code. But if we did that, we wouldn't have been able to get feedback as easily and as directly as we did during the analog day. And what our analog day, the findings of it taught us is that the local business owners along 2nd Street and the people we saw on Rosie's Dog Beach, they all corroborated things that we have found out in the development of our project, such as some people didn't know that the breakwater existed, and some people know a little bit about it, but not entirely what the purpose of the breakwater was. And here are some metrics from the air filter that we had. The most important thing on this graphic, I would say, is that the average time open for the filter was almost 3 minutes long, which means that people weren't just opening up the filter and then closing it. They were actually interacting with it, having it open, listening to the audio, and educating themselves through looking at the flyers on the filter. And for the next steps, we want to iterate on the feedback that we received from people interacting with the air filter, such as this message we received on Instagram from someone who interacted with the filter. And from that, we want to improve on the user experience. And we've been trying to partner with organizations in order to have the filter advertised on their page in order to reach a wider audience and educate people about the breakwater. And finally, our end goal is to have a permanent or semi-permanent installation at Rosie's Dog Beach in order to have it relevant to the local community of Long Beach. Thank you for watching our presentation.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you so much. I love this, just the positive approach that you bring around the breakwater with the complex history it faces, but also just how thoughtful, the process as a whole was as well. So excited to see what our panelists think. I think this time I'd love to start with Mary Beth, since we ended with you last time. Yeah, what do you think?
Thank you. It's perplexing. I like the comment of whoever put it in the chat that the breakwater keeps a lot of pollution from going out into the ocean. And I grew up along that breakwater as well, and we used to never swim right out to it, but try to see as close as we could get to it. And it's pretty impressive. But that I didn't realize until your overview map that all the LA River trash and stuff ends up right there, caught in that area. So I think education is key, cleaning up the river from where it starts all the way down, and doing what can be done to keep it clean. And I think the connection with Rosie's Beach, that's a very popular place for people. You have to go all the way to Huntington Beach for a dog park if you don't go to Rosie's Beach. And it's I just think it's got a lot of possibilities. And again, it's a really important thing to do. I think that it's sort of a knee-jerk reaction that we should get rid of the breakwater, but the implications of that are huge. And because it would change the whole dynamics, of the Long Beach shoreline. So focusing on how to keep it clean and how to educate people about its importance, I think, is really key. So well done. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for your feedback.
Thank you. Chris, how about we turn to you next?
Yeah, I really love this project, and I share some previous experiences, with the project team here, specifically on creating awareness of trash. I did a lot of research when I was at UCLA, in my PhD program in Bayona Creek, and working through some shock value, I guess, and just seeing all that trash after a storm, for example, work well in ensuring that, folks who see those pictures, who see that kind of, or who experience that kind of experience, really realize and within their networks talk about the importance of keeping the trash in the can. So I really love that in that context, and having the educational component of this being available through a VR experience really puts such awareness and educational value to the next level. And again, creating that access to for more people to show or to know. The only cautionary tale there, and also maybe this is particularly relevant for the first project as well, is that access to the ocean and to bodies of water is very limiting to many communities in the inland cities of Los Angeles, and more so, in those communities as well. The digital divide is very pronounced and very real, and so just kind of think about that. When you move towards a digital platform and creating awareness that many folks your age and students' age may not necessarily have those kinds of resources, that you're creating access to in terms of this awareness. And the last thing I just want to mention is that I sit on the LA County Beach Commission, and a part of the work that we're trying to do there is exactly what your goal is in your project. So maybe there's some opportunity there that the Department of Beaches and Harbors could work together with you at some point, when your project is fully developed and takes off, and in this research on alternative forms of education. I'm pretty sure, Gary Jones, who's the director of the LA County Beaches and Harbors, would be a willing listener, on what the potentials are in this opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. That sounds like a wonderful connection as well. LaRonda, I would love to throw it to you. Do you have a question for the team as well? I would love to see what you think.
I thought it was a really good presentation. I also heard something before on the, what do we do about that long ago, military piece of equipment that still sits in the ocean and still does its job. And Chris, I appreciated your idea, your thought about, it does do a job, not just, clutters up the ocean, but also does a job. And so a lot of thought, I think, in bringing together the different perspectives to come up with a solution that everybody can live with. So my thought on that is that I've not walked in either of your shoes, but if I put on my imagination hat, I think that I would start with not just the local environmental organizations, but also the high schools, the junior colleges, the people that are going to be out there using that ocean the most and for a long time. And I would bring these questions up to them as, this is your future we're thinking about, and how would you handle it? How would you like us to handle it? What suggestions come out of your generation? That's what I would want to know, because they probably either haven't given any thought. I'm thinking of friends of mine who still live in Long Beach and still use the beaches a lot there. But don't really, this is only the second time I've heard this conversation. And so people that are affected may not actually realize it, because it's not something that they've talked about. They didn't grow up with parents who talked to them about this thing. And so I would encourage you to reach out to, the 16 to 22 age group folks and really have them think with you for the future. Now you're thinking about your children and your children's children, and get their brain rolling in that way. But I do think you guys are doing a good job. I was in Venice not too long ago at the Venice beach, and they had a similar program, just a place where you could go, and it showed you how much more polluted the beach is now and the ocean is than it was 10 years ago. And you're thinking, well, I'm looking around, I'm not seeing that many more people, but just things like that. There were flyers they handed out. I didn't see any good posters or like the statistics that you guys offered. I think that would be important to people to know, how what's changing, but in a way that I can not only see as a pile of trash or, limited breakwater, but as a way that I can imagine doing something differently myself that would show up in that pile next time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but just making it more personal and taking it down to the younger generations, as well as continuing to bring it up. Those would be my thoughts. You can do that with community meetings, city council meetings in the area, working with the schools. All of them would be useful to you and probably welcome you. So good luck with it. I think it's a good idea to keep working together.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. The team thanks you. We definitely realize the importance of, education and learning from different perspectives, as well as collaborating with different partners. You talked about high schools and colleges. Yeah, everyone is impacted ultimately. And we definitely want it to be something that creates a positive impact we're not only thinking about us, like you said, we're thinking about future generations, our kids, the people that live after them. So yeah, thank you to all the panelists and everyone that commented as well. So yeah, thanks for your time, guys.
Great. All right. Well, thanks again, Long Beach. Great work on those two projects. We're going to now move on over to Cal State Northridge. Their project is called Restoring the Sepulveda Basin. The project's goal is public advocacy, and in this case, to advocate for a plan to transform the Sepulveda River basin of the LA River into an accessible green space with responsible water management. So super excited to hear more about this, and would love to turn it over to the team to see how your students are advocating to make this vision a reality.
Great, thank you so much. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Lorraine Lundquist, and this list of students on this slide is our team. These students are the very first class of Masters in Sustainability students here at CSUN with our brand new program that launched this year. And we will be discussing restoration in the Sepulveda Basin, which is a section of the LA River watershed located in the valley right at the intersection of the 101 and 405 freeways. And the problem that the students will be discussing is that the LA River Sepulveda Basin in the valley is underutilized, under-accessible, and unnatural. It looks like this in a lot of places. In many places, the river is channeled in concrete and straight lines, has non-native habitat and unhealthy soil. And, the Sepulveda Basin could be so much more than this, as this image from our partner organization called the River Project shows. The River Project has developed a visionary restoration project for the basin that our students will be showcasing today, along with their advocacy and action plans to bring the project to reality. The basin could be a hub of recreation with a central park feel that fully integrates the park into the surrounding area. The river could be restored into its natural state, which would help revitalize the habitat and the soil surrounding it. And then finally, this plan provides much needed flood protection to the area, as well as dramatically increased water capture to address droughts. And the plan addresses 3 of our county's sustainability goals. Goal number 6 regarding accessible parks, goal number 5 regarding thriving ecosystems, and goal number 1 regarding resilient and healthy community environments. So there are 3 parts to the students' project. First, this semester, they conducted an analysis of a number of different proposals for the area, and they've chosen the River Project to partner with as the proposal that they felt was the most sustainable. Finally, they developed an advocacy plan. They reached out to more than 75 organizations to ask them to sign on to a letter that will be delivered to key decision makers. And they have an action plan where they've established a partnership with CSUN Athletics for student athletes to do habitat restoration. So I'll turn it over to the students to start with their analysis of the River Project's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So the River Project's proposal for green spaces across the 8 miles of the river restoration will create new gathering places in the Sepulveda Basin. These new community spaces will create a sense of place with the land for the entire Los Angeles area. The combination of diverse recreational and athletic facilities alongside performing arts and the cultural event spaces will promote a balanced concept of leisure, relaxation, and recreation that will expose many people to the diverse possibilities and experiences. Its mission is to provide a flowing sense of connectivity, of variety, and interest appealing to different user groups and sensibilities. Following the footsteps of other great urban parks, these spaces would be accessible, welcoming, and legible within the urban fabric as special spaces. This can be accomplished by expanding networks of multimodal pathways and trails, enhanced spatial relationships between programmatic features of the park, and integration of river and tributary corridors as recreational elements that are opened and made to feel inviting and accessible to the public. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. The River Project's proposal has more accessibility features for the basin. This includes updating the multimodal pathways by making the slope transition shallower and grading and compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. Accessibility improvements and ADA compliance not only benefit those with disabilities, but all users of the park, ensuring everyone can access and enjoy the park with dignity.
Here to talk about the importance of the soil and land restoration. An increase of 1% in organic matter in the soil will increase carbon sequestration by 10 tons per acre. So the picture that we're seeing on the left is the invasive species in the wildlife refuge, which is black mustard. It doesn't provide any value to our native animals and insects. So the picture on the right is how the basin should look after river and habitat restoration. Much of the area is completely covered in dead mustard plants, which outcompete any native plants trying to establish themselves. Through the process of clearing the invasive plants and replacing them with native plants, carbon will continue to be stored in the soil with an increase in organic matter. There are currently about 100 different kinds of native plants in the basin and just about the same number of invasive weeds. By reintroducing native plants in the basin, there will be increased opportunity for key pollinator species to support revegetation efforts. The basin is a wildlife haven with over 200 species of birds and many mammals. This beautiful ecosystem needs to continue to be revitalized for the benefits to the wildlife, but also for the enjoyment and education of the people who visit it.
Another reason for the nature-based river restoration and stormwater infiltration is to reduce the fire risk. Due to homeless encampments, crashing of model airplanes, and the excessive amount of dry brush in the area, there's an increased risk of fire. With this solution, the increased soil moisture would provide increased fire resistance to the area, ensuring that if fires do occur, they would be less intense due to the increased resistance. Additionally, decreasing homelessness encampments and the moving of the model airplane field would result in decreased likelihoods of fire starting and then spreading.
Another reason for this project is water capture. Worsening droughts continue to strain our water imports, and utilizing our local aquifer to store water that falls naturally is the cheapest way to increase local water supplies. The proposed river restoration project increases 5 times the amount of groundwater recharge. This allows for more water to infiltrate in the soil and increase overall soil health. This proposal will restore 8 miles of the river, which will also reduce the amount of water going to the ocean during future rain events.
We don't often think about the danger of flooding in LA, but scientists at UCLA have studies showing that a massive flood called the arc storm scenario is likely in LA, and the damage from a flood like this would be in the order of $1 trillion, far worse than the estimated damage from fires, earthquakes, or droughts. A restored river provides additional flood protection by allowing water to spread out and soak into non-paved areas. For example, the picture on the right shows a flooding scenario from a computer model. On the top is how the existing park would flood, and the bottom is how the restored river channels would flood. There's an additional 20% flood storage capacity in the proposed system. Flooding in restored habitat areas that benefit from flooding rather than homes and streets that get washed out in the existing situation.
In addition, our action plan has established a collaboration with the CSUN Athletic Department and the Wildlife Reserve. The focus would be to have 2 to 3 off-season sports attend weeding weekends for about 8 months, where they help remove invasive species and habitat restoration. This dual promotion will help increase engagement and pride within the San Fernando Valley.
So these are some next steps that we would take if we are given seed funding for the river project.
we plan to host a forum with city council candidates for the replacement of former council member Nuri Martinez for the seat of council District 6, meet with city, county, state, and federal elected officials, continue our outreach to potential partners and the public, and execute the season athletics partnership, and lastly, present to neighborhood councils in the local area.
In conclusion, we have presented a vision from the river project to transform LA River's Sepulveda Basin into a vibrant, healthy river ecosystem that provides recreation, accessibility, healthy soil, fire and flood protection, and water capture. As a class, we choose this vision for the Sepulveda Basin because our analysis showed that this was the most sustainable plan for the area, providing tremendous increases in equity as well as critical multi-benefit community resilience solutions. We have developed an advocacy plan and reached out to over 75 local community leaders and organizations to sign on to the advocacy letter that we will deliver to decision makers. Finally, we have developed a direct action partnership with Season Athletics to provide students volunteers who will be performing the physical labor needed to restore native riparian habitats. We thank you for your time.
All right, wonderful work. Great presentation. Love how coordinated all of you were together on that as well. It felt very collaborative. I love seeing that. So panelists, we want to turn it to you. We do have a couple more projects to get to before 2, so we're gonna try to switch to just a quick question that you might have for each of these teams as well. Chris, perhaps we start with you this time.
Yeah, it's a comment and a question. This particular area is very familiar to me. We have our G line or orange line going to this location. And I'm just wondering if there's a thought process there, to connect the orange line, G line, greenway that we've created to what you're thinking about. And if not, I'd like to kind of submit that for consideration. Because it's already thriving, and what you have here is a really great project.
Yeah, I definitely think that having more connectivity is part of the program, and making more grand entrances so people can come and use it, and then making mass transportation so that it's more easily accessible. Thank you.
Great. Maribeth, do you have a question for the team?
Yeah, I think one question would be the sensitivity and compassion around the location of homeless people along the river there. It's pretty serious, and I know it would be a big part of the solution, but that would mean a big answer to the problem. So just want to raise that, not to solve it at this point.
Critical question there. LaRonda, do you have a question for the team?
Regarding the homeless issue in that area, I was down there last week, and that whole area between the freeways in the Venice area is full of homeless people. I wonder if anybody has reached out and talked to some of the people that are working on homeless issues with regard to, could any of the area that needs to be cleaned up or redirected, could any of the area still be used to house homeless, but not to have them be homeless? That is, in conjunction with the construction of some of the homeless housing, if any of that could be done to get more support for the project you're proposing, and to help solve some parts of the homeless issue. So I'm down in Venice a lot lately, and I drive from Pasadena, and so I'm looking at this area, thinking how beautiful it really is, and yet how it seems to me at least, underutilized for recreational purposes, as your presentation pointed out, and some solutions there. But is there a way to think about integrating at least some of the homeless population? For me in particular, it's just personal. When I see parents and children living under a bridge, that really bothers me. And maybe working with the city and the county or the state even, there could be a way to say, okay, we could integrate into this whole project a dorm or something that could be used for families, maybe for a limited time while they get on their feet or the parents get off drugs. I don't know. But I would just encourage, you know, to consider that kind of a thing. Is there a way to push forward, not just the beauty and the use? Because I think seniors will walk along there a lot more when you guys finish with the plans that you're trying to promote. But I also think we need to, since it's such a camp out, it doesn't even matter if I'm going at 7 o'clock in the morning or if I'm coming back at 10 o'clock at night. There's families camped out in that area. So that's my only concern, my only question. I hope you will think about it. That's all. Otherwise, I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany, did you want to respond to that real quick?
Yeah, I just want to respond real quick. I know that the River Project does have a plan for the homeless, because they want to make sure that everyone who uses the basin, it is for them, even for the homeless, so they have a place to go. So there's a part for that too.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Well, again, wonderful job, folks. And I was talking about how much I love seeing collaborations. Our next school or schools is, I think, a good example of that as well. This is a trio of schools in the eastern part of the county. We've got a project that was in collaboration between Harvey Mudd College and Pomona College, both located in Claremont, as well as Cal Poly Pomona. And their project is called Zeroing In on Solar. So the project was led by Harvey Mudd professor Richard Haskell, and the schools are developing a strategic plan to place nonprofit solar panel factories across LA County, targeting its most underserved communities. So that sounds like a really big vision with a big promise as well. And presenting today for the trio will be a student, Jackson Castro. So Jackson, I will toss the baton over to you to take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say we're really happy to be here. We have most of our team here with us today, at least the Harvey Mudd team. So hello, everyone. As it was said pretty well, this is a bit of an ambitious project, and we all kind of came into it knowing that we weren't gonna fully solve CHIRP's problem, but we wanted to help make as much progress as we could on that while we had the opportunity this semester. And overall, we feel really good about what we were able to get done. We were able to provide a lot of data and a lot of support to groups and areas across LA County as we try to create more of these factories that kind of uplift these communities. And on that note, we actually have a video prepared. So I will go ahead and play that, and then we can move into the questions. So what drew you to this project?
In college, we spent 4 years discussing climate change, the negative impacts on the environment, on society, and on everyone around us. And this project is kind of the first opportunity that I've had to really focus on both of those social and environmental issues at the same time, and really work to not only bring renewable energy to communities in a concrete, sustainable way that's really proven to be very effective, but also in a way that directly benefits communities and those who will most need that help when climate change becomes much more prevalent in society. I've been really lucky to be a part of this project, and I think that the interdisciplinary side of it really makes this a standout project for me.
CHIRP, the Community Home Energy Revolution Project, began as an organization focused on retrofitting homes in the Claremont area to make them more energy efficient and environmentally friendly. Now, they've launched an initiative known as Factories for the Future, which aims to redefine the solar manufacturing process across the United States. CHIRP aims to build solar microfactories that will be sponsored by different nonprofit organizations in underserved areas that have borne the brunt of environmental injustice. By bringing manufacturing back to these areas, CHIRP will also be providing local jobs and revitalizing economies in these communities. Through this mixed non- and for-profit model, these factories will be able to provide approximately 6,000 local low and middle income community members with solar panels per year. Just earlier this year, CHIRP opened its prototype factory in Pomona, which they will be sponsoring themselves as a proof of concept. Once certification for production is complete, CHIRP will begin rolling out the cutting-edge ideal PV panels that eliminate hotspots, the last major hazard for silicon solar panels. One of the reasons this project is so exciting for us as students is because we get to use the knowledge that we've gained in our computer science courses and our physics courses and kind of conglomerate all of this into a way to bring these new factories to communities that really need them. And it's really just so exciting because these factories benefit these communities in several different ways. One, it's great that we're bringing all of this solar energy to communities that otherwise might not be able to afford it. But on top of that, the factories are meant to work in a way that training is easy so that local community members can be the ones who are manning the factory and making these panels, doing the manufacturing themselves, rather than having panels that are made overseas. Because in this case, to buy those panels, you're losing money from the community. Whereas in this case, in the CHIRP model, the money is being reinvested back in these communities that need it the most, that need access to these renewable energy sources, that need help and a break in some of the energy costs that they would otherwise be expending, and to help right some of the environmental injustice that's been done in these communities, to kind of bring everyone together and bring the renewable energy transition across the board, not just to those who are wealthy enough to afford it. To help showcase this effort, CHIRP brought on help from local collegiate teams at Harvey Mudd, Pomona, and Cal Poly Pomona to focus on the expansion of factories within LA County. LA County was not only chosen since all three colleges as well as CHIRP reside there, but because it also has the most ambitious sustainability plan in the nation. Specifically, CHIRP's microfactory model would tackle Goal 7A, bringing 10 gigawatts of new distributed energy sources to LA County by 2045. This would equate to about 30 million new solar modules in this time. If we continue to buy most of our panels overseas where they are currently manufactured, this would result in $5 billion that would leave LA County. However, through CHIRP's model, this $5 billion could be reinvested right here at home, and all of this can be achieved if around 15 factories can be built in the county's most vulnerable communities. The energy produced by panels from just one of these factories can pull tens of thousands of metric tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere every year. And on top of that, the panels help reinvest millions of dollars into the economies in these underserved communities. Thanks to the energy savings, residents who receive the free panel installation will collectively see approximately $6.5 million more in disposable personal income. When we look at the effect that 15 of these factories would have in the county, the numbers are only more impressive, jumping into the hundreds of thousands of metric tons of CO2 removed, billions of dollars reinvested, and almost 100 million more in DPI across these communities. Our first objective in helping start more of these factories was to first figure out what communities it was best to locate them in. CHIRP already had some connections in various communities across LA County, but we wanted to help provide them with hard evidence that could be presented in favor of building a factory to local leadership. This led us to the creation of a GIS map after congregating data from several different sources. Ultimately, our chosen criteria were separated into 3 tiers of importance. The lowest tier contains various environmental injustice metrics, predominantly focused on pollution. The middle tier contains mostly demographic groups that the presence of a factory would most benefit, such as high school completion rate and linguistic isolation. In the top tier are metrics that the presence of a factory would help alleviate, such as energy burden and unemployment rate. The tiers are roughly arranged into a ratio of importance of 1 to 2 to 3. When taking these weights into account and combining the data into an overall score, this produced an interactive GIS map with our areas of most concern showing up in the warmer colors. This allowed us to provide further evidence for communities that were already interested in a factory, and also locate potential sites that should be reached out to in order to start the process of building and sponsoring a factory of their own. Our final task was to split into smaller groups and focus on 4 specific sites in order to further the creation of factories in these communities. We chose one site for each of the supervisorial districts: Compton, Panorama City, Long Beach, and Lancaster, with the Pomona site already being in District 1. Each of our groups has spent the final part of the semester attempting to establish what CHIRP refers to as a core energy group at these sites. Core energy groups are a collection of individuals that are spearheading the process of bringing a factory to their community with a range of backgrounds: local government, those with previous nonprofit work, community outreach, local artists, environmentalists,
crashes over and over again.
workforce development, and more. Our teams have started reaching out to all these types of people over the last month, building connections and furthering the conversation of bringing a factory to these sites. Currently, we already have several community members interested in the project in Compton, and we're looking to bring in more soon. In Panorama City, we have had conversations with the Environmental Office of Supervisor Kuehl with the hopes of then keeping the conversation going when Supervisor Horvath steps in. In Long Beach, the beginnings of a group was already established, but we have begun to help them seek more members as well as start to submit grant applications for funding. In Lancaster, we have begun conversations and started connecting to community services in order to get in contact with other groups in the area who would be interested in the project. This project here in LA County is only the beginning. CHIRP's plan would ultimately connect factories sponsored by different nonprofits nationwide in what they call the Locally Grown Power Network. Already, there are core energy groups established in 11 different states, and the prototype factory hasn't even begun production yet. The Factories for the Future initiative will change the way that solar energy is looked at in the U.S., from the return of manufacturing to our soil to the economic aid to communities most affected by climate change. CHIRP presents novel solutions to major issues facing our country today, and it has been an amazing experience to be a part of it.
All right, wonderful work, team. Beautiful video. Thank you so much for sharing so many great, exciting ideas about this project. It's really holistic solution as well. I'm really excited to see what our panelists think and throw it their way to ask you a question. So let's see, maybe this time we start with LaRonda. Do you have a question for the team?
I thought that was a wonderful presentation, and the idea of integrating the economic needs, because if you're picking sites, Compton and different places where their lower income people are plentiful, they're getting trained for a new industry, and they're able to produce something that will benefit everybody. I think that's what, in my world and in my life, I want to see more of come out of our universities and come out of collaborations between the people that are providing the social services and the people who are looking forward and ahead, and figuring out together how we can make something that's sustainable and workable and long-term has a life. So I don't have any questions for you other than to encourage you to keep in the direction you're going and to wish you success in every aspect of it. If I can help you, let me know, but I think you're on the right path already. That's it.
That's wonderful. Thank you, LaRonda.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Mary Beth, how about we throw it to you and then we'll end with Chris.
Sure. I think it's a wonderful project, and I love the idea that it's designed to be located in the areas of most need in terms of economic stimulation and jobs, etc. My question is, what's the capital need behind this project, and where do you expect that's going to come from?
Yeah, of course. And I can speak to that a little bit, as well as we have our CHIRP liaison, Megan Anderson, here. But the way that the model kind of works is that the funding is individual to each factory site, with some potential oversight and help by CHIRP. But the idea is that each individual factory is sponsored by a nonprofit who can accrue enough funding to get the factory started and running. And I'll have Megan correct me if I'm wrong, but the estimated number per factory is around a startup of 6 million, more or less, with some potential leeway in some areas. And some of the sites that were mentioned are already already kind of working on securing more funding. Long Beach is the one that comes to mind, at least of the ones that we worked within. And they're looking at both governmental funding, some funds from grants across LA County, nationally, just kind of wherever you can get it. And that's more or less how the system works.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, let's throw it to you.
Yeah, really quickly, this is really great. I appreciate the intent here of growing a solar manufacturing ecosystem here in Los Angeles. And my comments and or my statements are really just cautionary tales, and I have a few of them in the interest of time. I'll be very succinct. The first one is, while manufacturing is a good idea, much of the benefits of these systems really could be maintained if they're properly, there's a maintenance and operations program. So maybe a reconsideration of maybe not just manufacturing, but offering a turnkey solution, and moving in that direction, for essentially maintaining the benefits. Another one could be for consideration that you could consider as well as, the trade-offs associated with, having these kinds of technologies. The more solar we have across the region, the less available space those particular locations might have, unless they're on rooftops to begin with, the consequences of over 20, 30 years of using solar. Where do all these things go at the end of life? Something that you might want to think about as well. And the third one is, looking at maybe this is a gateway for other opportunities, in communities that you're thinking about, and having these manufacturing firms. Maybe there's an ancillary sets of businesses, that could grow, out of these, as you develop the project, considering those other ancillary businesses associated with your project.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I know that those are kind of cautionary tales, but I would love to hear any response from the team on those, because some of those I think are positioned as really strong questions to maybe try to answer already, actually.
Yeah, and I think, thank you so much for your comments. And I think I can speak to at least a couple of those. The end of life is a very important thing that will need to be taken into account once more of these factories are up and running. Speaking to your second point on the kind of space and the availability, the intention is largely that these are going to be in urban areas. The intent is to put them on rooftops. The idea would be that each factory would be able to create contracts with major kind of staple community buildings, like government buildings, ISDs, stuff like that. And you'll be able to have those contracts through there that would then be able to fund the panels that would be put on low-income housing to relieve their energy burden. So the idea is these are more focused on these individual communities in that sense. It's not to produce panels for large arrays in most positions, but larger, say, like parking lot cover type arrays are also feasible.
Think about the retrofits to existing infrastructure, as well. Just want to put that in.
I could make a quick comment too, Chris. Your comment about being vertically integrated is exactly what we're doing. What we're trying to do is locate the means of production and the entire value chain inside the local city. So we start with the factory, create the jobs there. We add the installation and the jobs there, the operations and maintenance, and then ultimately even the financing can come locally. So that what we've done now is we've relocated the entire value chain inside a local community owned and operated by the local nonprofit, so that then the profits also stay local and get recirculated back into community solar projects, especially now working in California through the community choice aggregation organizations. The cities, there's like over 35 of them now in LA County alone. So we can create community solar projects and direct the benefits directly to low-income households, skipping the rooftops. So yeah, that is the ultimate goal, is to significantly alter the distribution of a vital resource and locate the entire locus of control inside the local, hyperlocal community.
That's great. Thank you, Devin. And thank you, panelists and team. That was wonderful. Boy, I hate to say it, but we're under our final presentation of not only the day, but of the week. And this one comes from Cal Arts. It's called Sea Studio, Creating Kinship with Our Oceans. Cal Arts has been given an old warehouse at the Port of Los Angeles to reimagine as a space for an immersive experience about ocean health and sustainability. And it's going to be for both artists and the public. Their Pando Days submission is focused on designing what that experience should be. So, it doesn't get cooler than that. Excited to have Professor Shannon Scrofano here as the team lead. So Shannon, can you give us a little taste of what the Sea Studio experience might be like?
Sure. Hi everyone. It's so wonderful to hear from all of the students and the projects are so amazing. I do have one colleague here, Ridi Maturia is here today, which is great, but you're gonna unfortunately mostly have to listen to me. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to share the work that Cal Arts students have been doing this semester to consider how to bring the conditions in the oceans, which is our collective California backyard, into better focus. So let me go ahead and share our little site that we're working with. All right. Yep. So to begin with, this is just a feed from the Channel Islands Marine Protected Area. But to begin with a bit of important context, 40% of the global population, which lives within 100 kilometers of a coast. And this means both pressure on those habitats and land use in those areas, but also opportunity to create greater intimacy with and investment in the health of the oceans and our living shorelines. Scientists estimate that 50 to 80% of the oxygen production on Earth comes from the oceans. From a human standpoint, which is certainly not the only one that our Cal Arts students were interested in understanding, oceans drive the climate of the planet and influence everything from our food supply to our air quality. The oceans have absorbed 90% of the warming that has occurred in recent decades due to the human accelerated increase in greenhouse gases. And the top few meters of the ocean store as much heat as Earth's entire atmosphere. So that's why our project, Sea Studio, is bringing together emerging artists and designers to the Port of Los Angeles to embed ocean priorities into their practices and to demonstrate to scientists, advocates, and the public the powers of creative perspectives on these issues. So few of us even understand actually what's happening in the oceans because it takes special knowledge and ways of seeing to fully comprehend the changes, the disappearance of our kelp forests in non-protected areas, the urchin barrens, the threats to shellfish from rising temperatures, the impacts on migration, and the seeing that does occur gets trapped in white papers, science journals, graphs, and charts that are largely illegible outside of inner circles of researchers. And so this semester in class, we learned from scientists like Dr. Janet Kubler of CSUN, folks at the California Seaweed Festival, folks incubating blue tech, and visionaries like Five Gyre's Marcus Neeson, that they are all keen to find new ways to translate the information and create real investment in the oceans, recognition that ocean health is biodiversity health, is terra health, is planetary health, and is human health. And we learned from climate justice and traditional ecological knowledge perspectives that we have the capacity to be in balance, to be in more equitable relationship. Less than 5% of countries actually mandate educational curriculum around the oceans, resulting in a serious ocean literacy deficit. The word ocean is in the Green New Deal only one time, and the oceans are just very often an afterthought. So Sea Studio takes an interdisciplinary approach to addressing the critical state of the oceans and creating kinship with this vast blue world, holding sustained space for the arts to create engaging translations of the science and to consistently support colleagues and communities working on the front lines of climate justice and solutions with the oceans front of mind. It also invites the curious public in to share the questions in non-threatening generative ways that are committed to accessibility for all, no matter the level of scientific knowledge. We need to equip people to change the conversation around the importance of ocean health in their families, circles, and communities. And for example, the Blue New Deal, pretty new, is just beginning to get its sea legs, and we can be a part of how that lands with the public in creating the receptor sites needed to make different decisions. So, all right, goals 5 and 6 in the Our County Sustainability Plan, a look at how to make thriving ecosystems, habitats, and biodiversity, as well as accessible parks, beaches, recreational waters, public lands, and public spaces that create opportunities, particularly for ecological discovery and cultural activities. And this is where we focused our energy. We also looked at some UN SDGs as well. The Center for New Performance at CalArts has begun a multi-year partnership with AltaSea at the Port of Los Angeles. And AltaSea, you all don't know, is dedicated to accelerating scientific collaboration, advancing an emerging blue economy through business innovation and job creation, and inspiring the next generation, all for a more sustainable, just, and equitable world. Their campus, which is housed at a historic pier at the port and already is a bustling and inspiring place to visit, is undergoing an architectural transformation that will eventually include maker facilities as well as a discovery center. And we aim to make Sea Studio a continuing presence there during this transition time and hopefully beyond. Okay. So this semester in our class, MFA and BFA students in the Creating Equilibrium Studio have come from disciplines of instrumental arts, costume design, choreography, graphic design, experimental animation, jazz percussion, experience design, the visual arts, and music technology. And they were encouraged to find their own ways into the possibilities of communicating, engaging, immersing, and investing their fellow humans in the challenges the ocean faces. We were really fortunate to have voices from the US, Japan, Mexico, France, India, China, and even a student from Wyoming, which is pretty much the polar opposite of California in terms of politics and ocean access. And this group came up with experiential propositions that stretch from pop-up spaces made of bio-based materials to sound walks, to mediated environments addressing pollution, to treehouse investigations of local water cycles, and even what it has to do with the LA River. We struggled in class with questions of behavior change, levels of responsibility, corporate, governmental, individual, of clear communication versus aesthetic ambiguity, of emotional power and narratives, of trauma and climate anxiety, who makes the emissions, and inequitably which populations bear the brunt of those privileges, both near and far. We had to ask, can the arts really impact any of this and not seek comfort? These are not easy questions with Googleable answers, but as an educator, I'm really inspired that these passionately curious and deeply empathic artists and designers are willing to grapple with them. So let's go to a couple of projects. I'm going to mention a few projects, but feel free to find our site and explore the rest. Our semester is not over, so students are still adding content, details, and drawings, but the Pando page will always have the most updated URL for the content. So I'm going to start with Rudy's work since she's here. Rudy Mathuria's work, A New World, explores the question, what would a built environment look like made of entirely bio-based materials, and how would humans, other living organisms react and engage with this world? All right, I'm sorry, this is going to be a little too fast, but Jeremy Pappas's project, trash replacement. Let me see if I can get to it without the Zoom windows in the way. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Oops. I'm sorry, I'm in edit mode. Give me a second. That was not supposed to be like that. Okay. Let's see. his project. All right, well, I'll find the image in a minute, but it works with the beach cleanup for groups to document the land-based and organic or bio-waste washing up on our shores, and uses replacement animation techniques to then be deployed in large-scale architectural projection. With the Treehouse project, let me see if I can get that link to work. There you go. The Treehouse project, Kento Shirotsuka and Lucas Lanique asked the question, how can we educate young people about nature so they can learn to protect and harness it? And they developed a model of treehouse-based interactive environments based on keystone species to create healthy physical activity and demonstrate how young people can work to support balanced ecosystems, following the lead of a species that plays a major part in their own ecosystem. All right, Pablo de Larrañaga Aramoni created the Ocean Oneness Project. He's prototyping this as an encounter that manifests itself as a kinetic installation with sensory elements, immersing audiences in the different forms of life and land and sea that have been impacted by human activity. Rona Wen developed Uzo, which is a biomaterials-based pop-up shore gallery that contrasts repurposed coastal pollution and debris to explore alternative relationships to disposability. All right, and let me go back. Sorry, I'm going so fast. Okay, Nick Ginsburg explores life upstream, asking what soundscapes as expressions of material and cultural processes thread together physical and imagined space in Los Angeles, and uses 4-channel audio and mixed digital media to place the public in a diverse range of sound worlds composing Los Angeles. Michelle Fan asks, how can the creative process of art making cultivate understanding of and care for the subject matter? And it develops a series of actions and ways for communities to document and engage with their own non-human neighbors and plant and animal elders. Dylan Todd's project, Art Doesn't Matter, We're All Gonna Die, is a performance-based look at Generation Z fury, trauma, apathy, and attention to the climate crisis. Let's see, I just got a couple more I'm going to fly through here. Okay, Grace Slavicek developed a project called The Plastics Problem, which is an interactive installation exploring where our recycling narratives come from and where our waste actually ends up, despite whatever the bin label is or our individual intentions about where it's headed. And I also just want to mention Nisha Tyagi, who is examining corporate responsibility and lack of accountability and the environmental impact in the oceans, and the work of Livia Howard Yashar, who really kept us all in active conversation about impact and action through her ongoing research on behavioral change. So next steps for our project, let me see if I can get there. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's our phone booth. We're making a project in a phone booth too. Next steps for us in this journey are continuing the pre-visualization work of the individual installations, educational content and experiences, as well as top-line project planning, making draft budgets, and seeking some funding to create prototypes for some of the projects with students who want to continue taking the work forward. We would like to test these projects both at AltaSea in some of their events, and to work with their network of local relationships in San Pedro to install some temporary or pop-up versions at public locations beyond the AltaSea Pier. And through other relationships that we have with folks working in this space, we also hope to cultivate some dialogues with the Natural History Museum, California Science Center, and the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. And I don't know, I think the phone booth should live outside the fish market, so we'll see. We have the opportunity to test installations at the Port of Los Angeles as a part of these public events, including the annual Blue Hour, which will be next October. And we're also working with the team of Eco Consciousness 2023, which is a large LA-wide event in next September, to present work both on CalArts campus and possibly other sites throughout LA. Here is our really long-winded logic model. And we have learned that, there are many levers of change that, oh wait, hold on, where's my, there it is. there's many levers of change that can be pulled to shift public action. And that it is through hearing the same thing repeated from trusted sources that we shift opinion one by one. So C Studio really hopes to become kind of resource for artists, students, scientists, advocates, and the public, and to be a voice in that chorus for how we can evolve our kinship with the oceans. So I want to thank the students for all of their work, in particular to Ella Rosenblatt, our fearless TA, to Pando folks. Especially, I want to say thanks to Jenny Crusoe at Alta Sea, and everyone on our thank you list that you can find on the info page. And really, a lot of these projects that we're hearing, I just am so excited about. I would say reach out to CalArts artists in any way if that would be, if we can work together, find a way to work together going forward. Thank you. That's what we've got.
Amazing. Thanks, Shannon. Love seeing just the diversity of projects, and actually the way that they exist together on this webpage is really wonderful. You know, something I don't want to take up time from the panelists, something that I think about or almost have as a question of my own is, to what extent do you hope the projects coordinate with each other or connect versus, you know, exist as their own experience? And there's nothing wrong with either option, obviously. I'm just kind of curious, knowing that they would be in that shared space, you know, to what extent are they feeding off of each other? Yeah.
I think what we learned was there were just some, you know, part of the notion of a studio, a studio holds a space for an artist. And the CalArts Center for New Performance, which is part of how we originally developed this relationship, is really about like supporting the artist and following the artist's lead. And we want to be able to feed the artist with all the relevant things that make the work more impactful and get where it wants to go. But you know, we started with a tighter kind of rein at the beginning of the semester, but some folks just wanted to go and like be with the beavers. And some folks like wanted to figure out what spaces along the, how to re-understand industrial sites along the space of the LA River. And we just kind of let that happen. So I think in terms of actual, what might find its way as a prototype or permanent at the port, we don't know what that end game is, but are really trying to use the class. It's the only classic CalArts that we have that like engages in climate in a creative way, studio way right now. So, so this is their chance to kind of do something that they're passionate about. And then I think, once the projects are out, you start to see, what are the dialogues between, how can we strengthen those dialogues, especially if there were a series in one of these warehouses at the port, or if the work could go into the Discovery Center that eventually Alta Sea is developing.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Shannon. All right, let's see, maybe Chris, let's start with you. Do you have a question for Shannon?
No, actually, no. I mean, I'm just fascinated and amazing work that Shannon and your students have done here. Just a couple of comments. First one is we're trying to work in visuals like this in many projects that we're doing here in LA Metro. And would love to see your students' work get expanded in other venues around the city, not just the oceans. Amazing work. And then the other thing I just want to say is that the National Climate Assessment, if you just want to Google that, there's a National Climate Assessment call for art. And what we're trying to do is exactly what your goal is in there, in terms of the intersectionality of art and climate, and allowing for creatives to express, their feelings, emotions, ideas, in a completely different way than when the National Climate Assessment was first conceived. And I think, there's a lot of opportunities there for you and your students to thrive. So just want to mention that.
Thank you so much. And yeah, let's put the oceans on the Metro through art. That'd be cool.
And I did mention Gary Jones earlier. I do said on the Beach Commission, and we already have Can the Art, I think it's, or Art the Can, for elementary school students, and I think this is just carrying your project here is just carrying the effort to the next level. So great work.
so much.
Thank you. LaRonda, do you have a question for Shannon? And you're already off mute, so you're
Oh,
set.
great. No, I have no question for Shannon. I support the idea that you keep making it more available, your work that the different artists are doing, that you make it more accessible, I guess is the word I'm looking for the public, because I think even people that don't think about art and engineering or engineering and performance, you know, it all comes together in what you've described. And I think for all these kinds of projects that I've heard today, more understanding of what's happening in these spaces and reaching out to a larger overall population. How do you do that? You know, I would think you just start out by doing presentations like this one, but doing it to a variety of different organizations, business, education, environmental, just there's so many avenues. I'll give you a list if you want, but to be able to do that, I think it's the right thing, and to be able then to put things in language that the layperson can understand. I've wondered a long time, why don't we bring the arts and the science together more and the economics together more? And that's what this whole thing has been for me, a great privilege, everyone that I've listened to. But I think you are in a particular position, given the diversity you described, to be a spearhead and begin this bringing together of the thoughts, because a lot of people don't imagine that art and science go together. I encounter that often. So no, just keep doing what you're doing. I would say that not to you alone, but to all the projects I've heard. They've been wonderful to me. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm very grateful to Eugene for reaching out and asking me to participate with him and this wonderful team of people. So thank you. I wish you the best. I'll be talking you up. If I find you, if I see something I think it applies to you, you'll hear from me, maybe through Eugene.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. The mycorrhizal networks of Pando are mighty, and it's really nice that the nutrients can flow.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you all.
Awesome. Mary Beth, let's give you the final word on this one.
Okay, well, there's two things I want to say. One is the convergence of art and the science and other perspectives necessary to heal the planet. Just so critical. We have on our property here in Encino with the Sisters of Social Service given space to a project called the Biophilia Treehouse, and it's a large structure on our property now that's soon to be completed, and it's a feeding station for migratory birds and a place where it's a very intentional prototype that the intention of the county committee is to expand it all over Los Angeles. And it is a public art structure which serves the purpose of feeding migrating birds and restoring a lot of the native plant life and other things that are necessary here. So it's such a natural connection. People are attracted by art, and art has a huge message. The message that I would ask about is, how do we change from a competition between the Green New Deal and the Blue New Deal so that we understand the interconnections? I was shocked by that reference that only 2% of the Green New Deal has anything to do with oceans, and that needs to be integrated because it's all part of the same picture. And we don't want to have the Green New Dealers over here and the Blue New Dealers here. And art, I think, could speak that message of bringing it all together. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. It sounds like we need the teal New Deal.
I was just thinking that, but I couldn't say it because it rhymed. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to look like a fool. Oh gosh, everybody. So believe it or not, we reached the end of the premiere presentations for Pando Days 2022. This has been a really fun week. Thank you so much. There's so much exciting about today and the past 2 days with just these projects and these contributions and conversations. Really struck to see the vision of these projects as well. And the ways in which the creative and intellectual resources of higher ed, just connecting, see all these schools coming together, being focused on this real community impact is super inspiring. So I wanted to say, thank you so much to everybody for helping to bring these sustainability goals for the place that we know and love and call home, to that next level, and to further develop those goals and make them more and more tangible and real. Thank you to all the colleges and universities that dedicated full courses, studios, labs over this fall term to create these submissions, to the professors, to the team leads, to the students who of course will inherit this future that you all are creating as well. Thank you also to our expert panel, LaRonda, Chris, Mary Beth, thank you so much for your time and for your contributions today. Everybody remember that all of those Pando Days project presentations and deliverables are going to be posted on a rolling basis to the website, and that link should be in the chat now or pretty soon. You'll be able to read in detail what all these projects are about, keep track of those next steps as well. This whole series, Pando Days, would really not be possible without the work of so many people on the team. So some special shout outs to Gary Giro as Pando Days key advisor, Doug Chang as series producer, Lynn Goldfarb as creative producer, Betsy Hunter, Alexi, Mark O'Brien, Michael Braley, John Bielenberg, Brant Williams, and of course, Eugene Shirley. Pando Days was conceived with the help of the LA City Chief Sustainability Officer Task Force and made possible in part by the generous support of LACY, the LA Clean Tech Incubator, Clean Power Alliance, and the Calpine Energy Solutions, the Happold Foundation, LADWP, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Plant Moran, Alexandria Technology, and Metro, and then also, of course, by generous contributions from many of you. So thank you so much. Again, next up on the Pando Days calendar is the grand finale hosted by Caltech on April 16th. It's going to be a really special event. Thank you again, everybody. That's all we have for today and for this week. Thank you again for joining us, and hope you have a great rest of your afternoon as well. Take care, everybody.